Welcome back to wagertalk.com. We're talking betting theory. In this one, this is the great debate. And I know me and you, Brian, we're going to disagree.
Not a debate to me.
Huh?
It's pretty clear cut.
Betting early versus betting late. You're a guy that likes to get out there sometimes overnight, sometimes very early in the morning. I don't. I get out there later in the day. And there's always the perception about, well, you know, I want to beat the line. You want to get to the number before everybody else gets to the number. And I look at, I say, I'm going to get at the number at close, and I'm going to beat the closing line. That's the way I've attacked it for 35 years. I'm not saying one's right, one's wrong. Everybody, different horses for different courses. But go ahead and state your reason and why yours is the best way to do it.
Well, not only for betting purposes, we're all own sports services too. So one of the reasons I put out my plays early and bet early is because I want to give my clients the ability to shop for the best line all day long. So I think that's, at least from the way I do it, because I also buy plays. If there's people that specialize in tennis, hockey, whatever, I want to get those plays as soon as possible so I can get and shop for the best line. So I look at it that way. But also, when you're betting early, you're betting with a smaller amount of people that you're betting against. By the time you bet late, you're betting with the entire betting market. So that's why I'd rather go up against 1,000 people betting the early lines as opposed to 1,000,000 people betting the late lines. Another reason why I bet early is because I think I know where the line is going. So if you make your own power ratings and you do that kind of stuff, you're going to be able to beat the closing line. And it's been proven that if you beat the closing line, you will win in the long run. And betting early gives you a better chance of beating the closing line. If you bet late, you're playing into the closing line, so you don't have that advantage. And that's really why I do it early.
Hey, Brian, you're also a guy that you're more like me. You like to release later. You like to use the board, see everything out there. The thing that I'm going to say, as far as my aspect of it, part of my handicapping arsenal is I am a contrarian, okay? And if I am a contrarian and I want to be on the opposite of what average Joe Blow wants to do, betting late is better for me because Joe Blow's going to go out there and change the market. If Joe Blow thinks, John Q. Public thinks this game looks too easy, you know, and a lot of times with the lines that are smaller lines, where it's, and I use the phrase, and we use it all the time, just pick the winner type game. Those are the ones where the average bettor loves to bet because they don't, in their mind, they don't have, the point spread's not going to come into play. So they have a bigger opinion. And when you see one-sided games by the public, but yet you're not really seeing the line moving, that's giving me totally confirmation that my initial thinking was correct on the side that I had. If 80% of the public's on one side and that line's not moved all day, there's people balancing the books that are on my side, keeping the favorite from moving up. And that just confirms my play stronger for me.
Well, the public only really moves the line in the NFL. They're not betting baseball. They don't understand the lines in baseball. So you don't get a lot of public action in baseball.
I agree with you in baseball. Baseball is probably 80% sharps versus
in college basketball is very similar. They're going to bet what's on TV. So to do what you're doing, I definitely agree. When you're playing games that are on TV, when you're playing the bigger conferences.
The big names.
But if I'm seeing a game, if I want to play Louisiana Tech, another time I've used them as an example, the public's not betting Louisiana Tech. The wise guys are betting Louisiana Tech. So I want to get up on Louisiana Tech before the wise guys do, which would put me ahead of the line move.
Brian, your thoughts?
Well, basically what I like to do is I like to look at the games early with the overnight line, the early line, whatever you want to call it. Formulate my opinion, narrow it down to basically a half a dozen games or so that I really want to key in on based on, there's certain lines I like to look at. I stay away from big favorites for the most part. But once I narrow it down to a half a dozen games, then I sort of watch the lines move as the day goes on. I want to see how people are reacting. You know, are they thinking along the same lines as me? And I'm like you, we like to sort of go against the public for the most part. But basically, I like to look at them early, but I don't want to place my action early.
Yeah.
I want to wait till later on. I want to wait. I'm sort of a wait and see type person. I like to wait as long as I can, and a lot of times, your customers don't like the fact that you give out the games late. But if that help, everything in this business is to give you an edge in what you're comfortable with. It's your handicapping style, whatever you're comfortable with. If you like to wake up in the morning, put your plays out, give them to your customers early, and that works for you, that's fine.
Yep.
I mean, the whole key here is to try and beat the odds. That's the key, and use the percentages in your favor. If that's working for you, fine. If not, then I'm not going to use yours just because I believe what you say is true in your eyes.
Yes.
You're not going to turn around and start doing what I do because I have the confidence in mine. So it's whatever you're comfortable with. You have to have that comfort level, and I do like to wait as long as I can before I have to release to my customers.
And then, as far as for, football season, basketball, how many times there's late NBA lineup changes that, waiting later, Popovich is resting 3 people tonight.
Right.
You laid San Antonio at -8 because you thought the game was going to go to 9 or 10, and all of a sudden, guys are sitting out and the line pummels to 4.5 or 5. You're stuck with a bad number. Nothing you can do about it.
But the other team could be doing the same thing
It
and resting their
balances.
guys. The whole key is you want to handicap the teams and the coaches and the situations. If you followed San Antonio long enough, you know the games. The chances are, a colleague of ours, Big Al McMorty, that's his team.
Yeah.
He will send me an email. He goes, he hasn't said anything, but he's going to sit these guys out. That's the information you want early, not late. So if you're able to handicap that stuff, we talked before, we did another video here on season wins and betting futures and stuff. That's what I do. I know at that point I have more knowledge on these teams than everybody else does because they're not worried about that. Some of our colleagues feel the exact same way. They don't bet any futures. Number one, they don't want people to tie up their money that long, but they also don't have the time to do it, and they don't know as much. But, I used to, in the olden days, since we're all older than 30, I used to have a late phone service, and I used to put out my plays right before game time, an hour before game time. So I definitely understand what you guys are saying. It's just that at this point, from my special betting, and I'm not saying I don't do the same thing at night,
Yeah.
but I bet early, and then I'll come back late, because if there's a sharp book, the other day Kansas is playing at home against West Virginia.
Yeah.
Late money came in strongly at the sharp books on West Virginia, and Kansas had to go to overtime in that game.
Yep, absolutely. All right, I hope this talk helps you guys understand the difference between betting early, betting late. Bottom line, as we said, everybody has their own style. If what you do wins for you, don't change it. That's what you do. That's your comfort zone, and that's what makes you successful. Stay with it. But there is a case for both sides. All right, we're going to be back. Take a look at another betting topic here at wagertalk.com.